Hi, everyone. It's Leticia Remauro, and you are with me today at Ask the Expert. Today, I'm kind of flying solo, and so you get me. In a little while, we will be joined by Rob Parascandola and Rosemary Saladino, owners of the Marina Cafe in Staten Island, and we're going to be talking a little bit about COVID and how it has been affecting the restaurant industry. But up until they join us, I'm going to talk a little bit about, oh no. Yeah, okay. Well, we're living by the seat of our pants today. We're having an interesting situation go on here. I'm having some problems with my internet, and hopefully that won't continue to happen too long. But I'm also in a room where my dogs are, so you might get some barking. And I'm solo without George, so hopefully the internet will hold out. Hopefully everybody will join in. And up until the moment that Rob and Ro join us, I'm here to answer your questions about any subject that you'd like. I'm also going to talk a little bit about what's going on with COVID. So I'm going to play our intro and away we'll go.
Got on my leather jacket Thriller. The show ain't nothing Miller. Man, I'm a lady killer. If I want her, I'ma steal her. I promise I can make her fly away like caterpillars. So if you don't know by now, then you should probably get familiar.
Okay, so we're back, and for now, you're going to get familiar with me. I hope everybody can hear me okay. If not, make sure to let me know in the comments. I'm using a different computer than usual, which is why I am, the lighting might be a little bit off. But for everyone, please like this show and comment. And also, if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can see the upcoming shows and what we're getting into. We love doing this for you, and I'm sorry that it hasn't been consistent with me and George, but one of us has to kind of steer the ship and handle the clients, and he's been good enough to be that person doing that for me. Whenever he can join me, he does, but he's been holding down the ship, and I think all of you will agree that George is a great partner, not only for the show, but for the bond agency. And there go my dogs. Live podcast. This is what happens. They like to chase the UPS guy, and we have a lot of people that get deliveries on this block. But anyway, so a big shout out to George Passarello, and thank you, George, once again for holding down the fort while I go on to talk a little bit about COVID and about what's going on in the world today. So let's start by how many people have read the article about the Dr. Li Mengyan, who was a researcher in the Chinese lab in Wuhan. And what she did was she traced the genome of the COVID-19 virus, and she noticed that it was engineered. What does that mean? According to her, according to Dr. Li Mengyan, the virus was, oh my, so the virus was engineered to from a virus that was only infecting animals to one that could be transferred from animals, from human to human. And so she wrote a paper and she put it out there for the world to know of her findings. And ever since she put it out there have been many different entities trying to discredit her work. Now, one of those entities is the Associated Press, and I'm going to try and share my screen, so bear with me. I know I can get it right, but just bear with me for a minute. Let's see, we've got let's see, the Chrome tab we want this one, and we're going to share this. So So Dr. Li Meng's claims call for skepticism, but not dismissal, is the National Review. They have kind of taken on the AP and said that that the doctor, her work should be looked at. And I think I certainly agree with that statement. I don't know about you all. Now, the other entity that is, I would say, a respectable entity is the AP. And the AP is saying that the claim that the coronavirus was manufactured in a lab is, and I'm going to see about sharing this with you. We're going to stop that screen. We're going to share this screen, and this is the AP. They're saying that it is not true, and that it has been peer reviewed and found not to be true. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but I really have a problem with newspapers and Twitter and Facebook and social media acting as an intermediary for information that is coming to us from renowned scientists, and from people whose reputations are on the line. I mean, Dr. Yan, it has been noted for her research for many, many years, and she was willing to come forward to show the world her work. And by all accounts, from other researchers, other than the ones that the AP and Twitter and Facebook found, they all said that she was a renowned scientist and that she had always been stable and always been able to provide good information. So if that's the case, then how is it that news outlets or social media outlets can discredit that and claim to be the fact checkers on such things as a genome and tracking the COVID-19 virus? I'd like to know what you think about that. I see that we're joined by Lisa Esposito. Hey, Lisa, thanks a lot for joining us today. It's important for us to see that you're here, and we'd like everybody to like and comment so that I know that the content of the show is something that you want to see. So thanks for joining us today, Lisa. So at any rate, so let's talk about that for a minute. We have been told, let's go back to March, right? To all the way back to March, when we were told that all of us had to social distance, that our restaurants needed to close, that unless your business was considered an essential business, that you had to close, that we had to lock ourselves in the house with only the immediate members of our family, and basically our world was going to cease to exist. And at the time, we had the World Health Organization saying certain things about the virus, and then we had Italy saying certain things about the virus. But let's face it, folks. Nobody understood this virus. Nobody really knew this virus. The only thing that we knew was that at some point in time, somewhere around December, there was a scientist in a Wuhan lab that said that he was working with the virus and that the virus got out, and that this virus could affect human beings. And what we learned about that researcher, that scientist, was that the Chinese police paid him a visit, told him to take down his posted materials from the public website that he had posted on. It was really like a note board. It was kind of a dark web site, because in China, you can't post that kind of material without approval from the government. But the secret police came, knocked on his door, told him to take it down. He complied. He took it down, but it was already out there. So thankfully, it was spoken about, and even our own military or intelligence or however it got to us was able to scan that site and saw the virus and saw what the scientists had claimed, and ultimately, though, that scientist died. He was taken to the hospital. He was infected with the virus, and they didn't know how to treat it, and he died. And so, fast forward, I'm not going to get into who knew what when and who did it first. I mean, from my perspective, and I watched all of it, President Trump spoke about the virus early, wasn't sure if it was just like the flu because it acted like the flu. He did make comments that it was very flu-like. And then as we learned more, he said it was extremely contagious. And then as he learned more, he said we need to close down travel from China. And he did that. And when he did that, we had the New York Times calling him a xenophobe, and that he was acting. I'm paraphrasing because I don't recall the exact words and phraseology in the Times, but you could look it up. It was somewhere in February or early March when the president first said no more travel from China, that they called him a xenophobe, and they said that there was no reason to stop travel from China. And as a matter of fact, at the time, there were people all over the country who were afraid to eat Chinese food or to shop in Chinese restaurants or have their nails done in any Asian businesses. And so the Asian businesses were actually suffering. And Nancy Pelosi and Bill de Blasio at about the same time said, come to Chinatown, enjoy Chinatown, everybody order Chinese takeout. And I have to say, I was one of them. I believed that, well, why did I say order Chinese takeout and it was okay? It was because all the ingredients were made in America. And at the time, the virus was, for all we knew, was in China. And so when the president shut down the airports and said, they couldn't travel from China to the United States anymore. People called him, a xenophobe, and they actually had very harsh words about him. And at the time, I recall speaking to somebody in the fashion industry who told me that the many of the fashion houses who usually shut down during Chinese New Year because many of the seamstresses and the people who work in the fashion industry in Italy go to China to celebrate the Chinese New Year. She informed me that when they came back from China celebrating the Chinese New Year to Italy, where many of the manufacturers are, and many of the very famous designers are, they brought the virus with them to Italy. And that, it goes on par with what we've seen, right? Because at that time, after the president shut down travel from China, we saw that Italy was the most affected with the virus. And so if you follow that logic and you follow that timeline, you can see that it was the return from workers that work in Italy from their celebration in China, which, by the way, the Chinese government, the communist government, knowing that they had this virus, knowing that it was a problem, knowing that in December, one of their own researchers posted this information on a dark website for people to see, knowing that they shut him up, they allowed all these people to not only come back to China, but then to leave China and go to parts across the world. And so we saw Italy become very infected with the virus. And it wasn't until we started seeing the infection come to America that we were able to trace that it was now coming from Europe. And that's when the president shut down the travel from Europe. And all the time that every time he did anything like this, he was criticized, he was ostracized, and we were told as the American public from many of his opponents that this was just he was just it was untrue, and then shortly after that, when we realized that we had a real problem here, now suddenly Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi start going after the president and saying that he's not doing enough. And that's when the president at a rally uttered the words that Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi were going to make the coronavirus their next hoax, similar to the Russian, to why he was impeached with the Russian collusion. Those were his words. His words were that they are going to make the China virus their next hoax about how he handled things. That clip, that statement was ultimately clipped and and then sent out for it to seem like he said that the China virus was a hoax. Ladies and gentlemen, he never said that. Now, I am not going to spend the time defending the president. What I am going to do is spend some time talking about facts. And why am I talking about facts? As I have collected them and seen them, because it is important for us to remember what has happened in our life and what has led us here. I'm going to go back to the early part of the virus, and after things calmed down and Schumer and Pelosi decided to quiet down, our Governor Cuomo, seeing what was happening in Italy with the need for ventilators and people being on ventilators, he started calling for ventilators, and not just hundreds of ventilators, but he called for thousands of ventilators. And I think it was something like he said he needed 30,000 ventilators. Do you remember that, Mom? My mother just joined us. Hi, everybody say hello to my mom, Josephine Nastasi. And those of you, I see that there are far more people who are watching than are commenting. Please, show us some love, subscribe, share the show with others so that they can see what we're up to and maybe get involved in the future. So going back to it, is to the president. Hi, Renee. There's Renee. Renee Esposito saying hi to my mom. Okay. So going back to the president and Cuomo, it was the Cuomo who said to the president, we need more ventilators, we need more PPE, we need more hospital beds. We're going to be affected in New York, and we need to get as much as we can to be prepared. And he was right. Why were we so adversely affected in New York? Well, because we're one of the largest, municipalities. I mean, New York City is the largest city in the world, and we have airports that are bringing people constantly from all other countries. And it wasn't until, again, the president said shut all travel from airports, and there was resistance on the part of the governor and the mayor to do that, but ultimately it was done. But many people had already come back from celebrating Chinese New Year's. And if you think about it, the people lived in Queens, both Queens, which has a very large Asian population, and also the airports. There's 2 airports in Queens, and there's one in New Jersey, just a short stone's throw from Staten Island. And when in the early days, the places most affected, the boroughs most affected, was Queens and Staten Island with the coronavirus. So, at any rate, the governors now were all scrambling, and they were asking the president for help. And while Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi were saying that, President Trump is not taking this seriously, he's not doing enough, he's not whatever their commentary was. The president was working along with all of the governors, and including Newsom in California and Murphy in New Jersey and Cuomo, people who are not of his party and often harsh critics, and he was supplying everyone with what they needed. And again, early on, the government, the federal government, was actually trying to secure PPE for the hospitals, and it was learned that when the federal government was bidding, it was kind of it was not coordinated. What do I mean by that? Well, every state is sovereign, and so they're supposed to have their own stockpile of emergency equipment at hand. And when the states were bidding against each other, what it was doing, it was driving the price of the PPE up to a drastic high. In other words, I think that at a certain point, I was trying to help get some equipment here on Staten Island, and what was masks that were supposed to cost a couple of bucks were being driven up to $16-17 a piece, and even higher than that. And that was because of the bidding war that was going on between all the states. And so when the states gave that information to the president, they worked it out so that there would be just one request, one entity bidding and then dispersing or distributing out to the other states. That was the smart move. And remember how rapidly everything was going, ladies and gentlemen. We hear Pelosi talk now, we hear Schumer talk now, we hear Biden talk now, we hear Cuomo talk now, and they're trying to erase our memory. They're trying to pretend that none of this happened, but I'm giving you a snapshot of my memory of the timeline of how anything happened. And if any of you believe that I'm wrong, I like very much for you to jump in here and remind me of your memory of how things happened. Because now you remember Cuomo and every governor, right, shut their state down and said only essential workers. And they were responsible for deciding what businesses were essential. So, and I want you to think about this a little bit, because it's important for us to, I guess, dissect this, because what was essential was any place that sold food. What was essential was, of course, all of the pharmacies for medications, and in there, anybody that sold PPE. And in there was anyone that sold liquor. That always struck me as odd. And I think that it was done because there are alcoholics, and those people are dependent on the alcohol, but I don't know why. And if anybody wants to posit a guess as to why the governments would keep liquor stores open and consider them essential, please let me know. There were auto body shops, of course, and gas stations, and a host of others that were considered essential. And they allowed for restaurants to be open only for pickup or delivery, and you couldn't go inside. And that was only after that came towards the tail end of the list. I mean, they added things to the list as it went along, but it was only for pickup and delivery. And so for many restaurants, like fine dining establishments, the conversion to pickup and delivery was not an option for them, and so they shut down. But others were managed to survive. Pizzerias, I remember in the early days, pizzerias did great. Chinese food restaurants now, everybody remember, at that point in time, most of them had already shut down and not reopened because of the fear that was permeating the country of the coronavirus. Whether you agreed with it or not, whether you think it was sensible or not, the fact is that there were many people that were affected by or fearful of having anyone with a coronavirus, or I'm sorry, any Chinese manufacturer buying anything from anything that was Chinese made. So, okay, now we're just now joined by Rob Parascandola. So I'm going to stop my soliloquy and I'm going to bring Rob in. Hey, Rob, how you doing?
Hey Tish, how are you? How's everything?
Everything is great, Rob. Thank you so much for joining us today. I was just going back through time with our guests. And everybody give a big hello to Rob. I want you to like and subscribe, show the love, hit the like button here, hit the share button, give us some hearts, give us some love. Rob Parascandola is coming to us live from the Marina Cafe today, and he's going to talk to us today about his journey through COVID and what that has been like for the Marina Cafe. So, Rob, just so that you know, we have today Lisa Renee Esposito is saying hi, Rob. Gina Convoy is saying hi. We have Joe Marino here saying hi to you. And my mom, Joe Nastasi, is with us here. So thanks for joining us, Rob. And if you don't mind, why don't you just talk to us about, you know, how your journey through COVID was. I mean, like how was it when they said that you could serve takeout and delivery? Did the Marina Cafe participate in that?
Okay, hi guys, how are you? Thank you, Leticia, for the invite. Yeah, during the pandemic, we actually had to close on March 15th up until June 25th. For us, it really wasn't worth staying open just because of the fact that we're just a big place and we have too many employees. So unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. Otherwise, if we were able to do that, that would have been fantastic. But during the COVID, we tried to do whatever we can to fix the place up, clean it up, and get it rocking and rolling. Up until this point now, it's nice to be opened up, but there's so many rules and regulations now. It's just becoming a disaster, and we're not sure what's right and what's wrong.
So, Rob, from March 15th on, when did you reopen? When they allowed outdoor dining?
Yeah, so we actually reopened when they did outdoor dining, which I think it was the the third week of June.
Okay, and you were one of the fortunate ones who had an outdoor deck. So you were already set up for outdoor dining. So at least you were able to do that. Okay, and I'm going to stop and just say that Donna Galuccio Marino says, hi, Rob.
Hi Donna, how are you?
Okay, so but that the outdoor dining because you weren't able to serve at the bar and because it wasn't enough to make up for the losses, right? That you suffered from when you were
Well,
closed.
listen. At the end of the day, we're never going to make up the losses. But the good thing is that before the pandemic even happened, we just happened to get lucky, and we wound up putting redoing the front of the building, putting a pergola up with a retractable awning to be able to sit 60, 70 seats, which that just happened to be by luck. Yeah, we did get a little lucky, which is great because when we were able to open up, we also had the tiki bar, which was fantastic, where we were able to sit, a decent amount of people. And then we also had the front of the building where the pergola, where the new system is. And then we also had the parking lot that we were able to put up a nice size tent. So fortunately, we did get lucky, thank God. Um, so that we could be grateful for. But
But the
we're able to
losses.
make up for the losses. We'll never make up for the losses. It's impossible.
So talk to us a little bit about, we know that you were a victim of the Cuomo's Gestapo who came in. I mean, I know probably you don't want to talk about too much legal stuff, but I mean, what was that like for you that night when they claimed that you were not handling the situation correct?
All right. Well, we could go back a little bit. So what happened was, it was a Tuesday during the week, and we had a sheriff, we had someone from the state liquor authority, okay, and we had a state trooper, and they had came in and they were looking at the premise to see if we were following all the rules and regulations, which he actually did say we were doing a very good job. The only thing that he could have said. That might have been a little negative is like just to make sure that everybody's walking from the tables to the bathroom with a mask on, which is fine. But it's very hard to watch everybody when you have 300 people in the at the tiki bar when people are sitting down. So it's a little hard to monitor everybody.
Right.
And he had the state trooper had pulled one of us over to the side and said, "Hey, listen, we just want to give you a heads up. You guys are doing a great job. We're not here to bust your chops. We just want to make sure you guys are doing a great job." And they were gentlemen. They were from Albany. They were fantastic. 3 days go by. It's 8 o'clock on a Friday, and two people from New York City came in, and they had suspended our license. And when they had suspended our license, the gentleman gave us paperwork on it, and when I looked at the paperwork, he wasn't able to tell me actually what was the problem. I had to read it on my own. Make a long story short, the next day we were able to find the hearing on YouTube, and when you're looking at the hearing was totally absurd because of the fact that they were claiming that we had a pool, okay, that we had a tent at the tiki bar, okay. Now this is all public information, so this is not something that's I'm just making out of the blue. This is on YouTube.
Yeah.
And they were claiming that there were 10 tables with no food on it. They were claiming that people dispersed when they saw the State Liquor Authority. How could you disperse if you saw the State Liquor Authority? I could understand if 10 cops were running up the alleyway and running into the Marina Cafe, they would be dispersed. State Liquor Authority are basically wearing black pants and a collared shirt. There is no uniform. So to me, that was disgusting. Okay? So they claimed that. Then they claimed that they saw pitches. They couldn't tell if the pitches were inside or outside of the marina. See, to me, that seemed like it was a scam.
Yeah.
They didn't even give me a chance to actually fight for it.
Right.
Okay? So that was the sad part about it. So there was all these false accusations, and when they didn't even ask us for receipts, and I had receipts from 8 o'clock till 10:30.
Right. Wasn't one of the claims that they noticed that people were drinking at a table, but there was no signs of any food being served?
Exactly.
But meanwhile, you cleaned the table.
Right. How do you know that those people just ordered? How do you know those people just didn't finish their food? How about those people just got their check and they were about to leave?
Yeah. And for that, and Lisa Esposito says that whole incident was sketchy, and that was truly it was sketchy, and it wasn't only sketchy for the marina; it was sketchy for many other of the restaurants on Staten Island, including Joyce's Tavern that we'll talk about a little bit, who got nailed on 9/11 for having a pregnant woman sit at a table inside the restaurant because she was overwhelmed with, a 9/11 event that was outside. I mean, some crazy stuff. But I want to continue to focus on you, Rob. So ultimately, you got your liquor license back, but it cost you, right?
It cost me a lot of money. My liquor license cost me to get back $25,000. But the $25,000 really wasn't that bad. It was the fact of the amount of business that we lost in 10 days.
Yeah, right. So you spent 10 days on top of
publicity as well too, because everybody wants to hear about the negative things about a restaurant, right? Everybody wants to hear that. But you know what? What about restaurants like us, Marina Cafe, that we're constantly doing tons of fundraisers? People forget about that. Autism, cancer, breast cancer, raising money for any type of community whatsoever. But everybody forgets about the bad. Everybody wants to hear about the bad things, not the good things. Like that's disgraceful.
And how many years has the Marina Cafe been in business, Rob?
We've been in the business since 1980.
Okay, so think about that, ladies and gentlemen.
40 years.
The Marina Cafe has been in business since 1980, keeping their customers safe and happy. Because let's face it, this is an industry that you know it, and we've all seen it. You open a restaurant, and in 6 months it's closed, or a year it's closed. For a restaurant to stay in business for 40 years, that means they know what they're doing, and they understand their customer, and they keep their customers safe and happy. But the first incident, right? And this was your first incident, right, Rob? It wasn't like the 3 strikes.
Right.
It wasn't the 3 strikes that Cuomo said he was going to do. So there was like zero tolerance, and their claim was that there was no.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but let me just clarify this.
Go ahead.
To take the license away, I want to clarify this. When they came to take the license away, I said, "Sir, whatever happened to the 3-strike rule?" He had turned around and told me there is no 3-strike rule.
Okay.
He specifically said there is no 3-strike rule.
Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen that are watching, you tell me, do you recall Cuomo saying that they were going to give 3 strikes to the restaurant industry? And that would make sense, right? Because if it's not as if Rob there were 50 people sitting inside the restaurant, all dancing and, without masks on. What their claim was, now get what their claim, oh, all right, Lenora Palermo says she remembers that they said 3 strikes. Now let's just think about this, ladies and gentlemen. It's not as they said that they were finding him because people were sitting at a table that was clean, that had drinks on it, but no signs of food. Now, I don't know about you, Rob, but I didn't know that the coronavirus knows the difference between if you're eating and drinking together or if you're just drinking. I didn't, I don't know about that. I want to get
open up gyms. When they open up gyms, shouldn't people be having a sandwich while they're working out also?
yeah, really. It's crazy. So for the minute things that they hit you with, that people got up from the table without their mask, let's think about that. I mean, I listen. I try to be always conscious of it, but sometimes I forget. You get up, you don't think to put on your mask. You just finished eating, but the restaurant owner gets in trouble for that. It's crazy shit, people. Crazy shit. Lisa Esposito says, I think his outdoor access was primed for safe distancing, and he was targeted. He only got 1 strike and loses his license. Unbelievable. What do you have to say to that, Rob?
Well, here's this. How about everybody? Same thing. Pontevecchio got 1 strike. They were in and out. Patricio's in Brooklyn, 1 strike. Cello on Highland Boulevard, 1 strike.
And that was, can you tell the story on Cello? Wasn't that something crazy, like it started to rain?
So basically, from what I hear from Cello, is that basically he had a few people outside, and it started to pour. Okay, and people were just I guess eating, and they just about to finish, and he brought them in just so they wouldn't get wet, and just happened to be State Liquor Authority came in on something that was just so silly, and they took away his license.
Now think about that, ladies and gentlemen.
What is pouring out, and they already paid their check, and he was just giving them shelter for a few seconds.
And think about that now. Think about that. This is insanity. He was giving them shelter in a rainstorm, and I remember that night. It was crazy stormy that night. All right, John Curley says, awful Andy needs someone to pay the tab. He figures it will be the 1/3 of restaurants that are able to stay open. So John Curley is a local guy who's been on our show a couple of times. Do you feel like the government is trying to make up the deficit on the backs of small business, Rob?
100%.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
Can I tell you something else, Leticia?
Sure.
It's driving me a little crazy too. Is this John Curley that has the karate school?
I don't know if he has a karate school. He's a private investigator.
Okay. Because we have mutual friends. I'll tell you what's driving me a little crazy too is I think it's disgusting that they're coming out with this where they want to charge 10% for restaurants for the COVID-19. I think it's horrendous. And I'll make it very short. I think it's disgusting because we should just be happy that customers are walking in the front door to spend their own money, okay? And to charge 10%, is also going to take away from the waiters and waitresses' pocket and their pay.
Yeah.
How would that possibly work? If New York wants to do better for us, right?
Yeah.
If they want to do better for us, okay, why don't they do this instead of giving 10% and charging the customer, okay, why don't they give us 10% off on our sales tax, which sounds probably much better. That way everybody can get back on their feet. But why should I charge customers even more money when they're coming in? To me, I think that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sit kosher with me.
Well, good. I'm glad you said that, Rob. So this is the article that Rob is referring to, ladies and gentlemen. Just so that you know, it's appeared in the Staten Island Advance recently, and it was a bill sponsored by Councilmember Borelli and supported by Matteo and I believe also Debbie Rose. And it would be allowed the restaurant to charge a surcharge, a COVID surcharge for a short period of time. But our restaurant, once again, our restaurant owners, the people that are business members, they're saying that they don't want to do that because they don't want to tax the customer. And I got to tell you something, Rob, I didn't expect anything different from you guys because why would you put the burden on the customer when the government has been putting the burden on you, not the customer? The
Well
customer
said.
has been there and they have been supporting you all through this. And, it's one of those things, pet peeves that I have about our elected officials not having business experience, that they don't understand that customer service is a necessary function. And Rob, that I wrote to Governor Cuomo and to the mayor, and I asked them to suspend sales tax collection for restaurants, and payments for restaurants, and also to provide a grant for restaurants to pay you guys back for all of the work that you had to put in to do this outdoor dining and get COVID, get ready for COVID. We're still waiting to hear back on that on that letter. So Rob, Joe Marino wants to know, did you get any support from any of our elected officials?
Yes, I got some great support, and one thing I will say is I got a lot of support from Leticia. And by the way, Leticia was spot on with everything that you said, so that I have to let you know. I got a lot of support from you. I got a lot of support from Nicole Malatakis and a few elected officials.
Yeah.
So I always appreciate you guys' support. I think you guys were fantastic, and it couldn't have been done any better. You know, so I'm grateful.
Okay, well, thank you, Rob. Thank you very much. Wait a minute. So it seems like you found a long lost friend. John Curley did own a karate school many, many years ago.
All right. Well, John Curley was very, very close with my cousins that lived on Lisk Avenue. So, and I see his brother all the time at the Marina. That's why I kind of figured. He's a fantastic guy.
Fantastic guy. He wrote a book, and he's been on our show to promote the book. He's a really, really great guy. Lisa Esposito says that it seems to her that most restaurant owners are opposed to this COVID surcharge.
Yeah, I think it's disgusting.
Yeah. And let's see, my mom here says Rob's mic is low, hard to catch everything. Rob, is there a way that you could?
How's that? Is that better?
Oh, much better.
Okay.
Much better. Mom, is that good? You'll let us know. Okay, so we're joined by Connie Reginella Barone, and she says, as a senior, I will not be able to eat out anymore if you guys do the COVID surcharge. So, Connie, that's a good comment. So what can you do, Rob? Can we just talk a little bit about our senior populations, because COVID has disproportionately affected the seniors, and so many of them who are, I think, a mainstay for restaurateurs. Many of them aren't going out because they're fearful in this environment. Could you just talk a little bit about some of the things that you've done, implemented in your restaurant to make sure that seniors stay safe and that everybody stays safe?
Yes, absolutely. Basically, like the usual, we actually have markers on the floor for you got to stay 6 feet apart. Every 15, 20 feet, we do have hand sanitizers. Every 15 minutes, I have people coming in and out of the bathroom, cleaning the bathrooms, the doorknobs, the handles, the bathrooms, the urinals, etc. Making sure that every customer is walking in and out of the place from their table to their table. We'll make sure that they'll be wearing masks. Taking every necessary precaution that we could actually do. Paper napkins, paper like tablecloths.
So a lot of disposable stuff.
Yeah, everything's pretty much disposable that we try to do. But we also want to try to keep it normal as well too, because we want people to know, like, hey, listen, this is eventually going to go away. We're going to get back to our regular times as well too. So I'm not going to be the person that's putting up plexiglass from ceiling to top and isolating each other, because at the end of the day, this is going to be over in a couple more months.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to keep it as normal as possible, but also try to keep it as safe as possible as well.
So Connie Barone, I just want to know, do you feel comfortable eating out? Now, my mom, who is in South Carolina, Rob, says that all the South Carolina restaurants are open and all the servers wear masks. And I'll tell you, Rob, that as early as May, those restaurants were open, and how they worked it was every table had to be 6 feet apart. So they didn't have that number like 25% capacity or 50% capacity. It was, if you could put them outside, and inside it's got to be 6 feet apart. So use every available space. And South Carolina managed to keep their tourist industry this year. They managed to keep the life as normal as possible. And my mom, Mom, I'm going to talk about your health history here. My mom survived stage 3B lung cancer. And so she is severely compromised. And she goes out to eat once a week in a restaurant. And she has been since May. And thank God, she's perfectly healthy. And as she says, all the servers wear masks and they sanitize and they wipe down. And whenever they tested positive, if any employee tested positive for COVID, the restaurant closed down. Of course, the employee couldn't come to work. It got completely sanitized. And then it was allowed to open again, Rob, in a week. I mean, and so they kept it going. And I think that it was a good example of how government and business could be in partnership for the benefit of all, because eating out is not a luxury anymore. It's part of our everyday life.
100%.
And right? People who don't even know how to cook. In Manhattan, people use their ovens as shoe storage. They never even turn the thing on. So how can this mayor and this governor think 25% capacity opening is going to help you out? Talk to us about that. How's that going to affect you?
Well, I think that's another thing. I know I've used this word a couple of times in your podcast, but I think it's disgusting. 25% is not going to work for anybody. I'll give you, for example, my seating is 166 people, and I could only basically fit anywhere between 40 to 45 people. That's not going to work. My rent's not going to be 25%. My electric, my gas is not going to be 25%. It's going to be very impossible.
Right. Your property taxes won't be 25%.
What's that?
Your property taxes, the mayor's not going to cut your property taxes. Yeah. So, all right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're absolutely 100% right. So 25% is not going to work. It's just not going to work, and it's going to hurt a lot of people. It really is, and I think a lot of businesses are probably still not going to open up because it's not worth it for them for 25%. And here's another personal plan that I'm going to throw out there. Okay, is that right now it's 25%. I could see in another month they're going to go to 50%. Okay, and then they'll wait till after the holidays, all this nonsense down the road in January, February, then they'll go to 75%. They're not going to do 50%. After the holidays, because of the fact that they're afraid that there's going to be too many gatherings with Christmas parties and New Year's Eve parties. So, you know what? The mayor and the governor don't even want to work with us. So that's the sad part about the whole thing. At least work with us. Give us some sort of, work with us. There is no communication whatsoever.
And so what Rob just said is really where everybody needs to take notice of that. That we're looking at facing the holidays with not being able to have holiday gatherings. They don't want holiday gatherings. They're already projecting into the holidays that this virus is still going to be around.
Absolutely.
And how the hell do they know whether this virus will be around or not into the holidays? But that they're setting it up, Rob. You're absolutely right. I mean, think about it. The governor has told us we can't worship, we can't work out, we can't eat out, we can't gather. That's what these governors that have closed down their states have done. They have told us what businesses are essential and which are not, and they've done it through fear, and they've done it through disinformation and misinformation, all the while telling us follow the science, follow the science, follow the science. And then when a researcher like Dr. Lee Mengyan says, hey, guess what, guys, this virus was engineered in a lab and was set free to harm other human beings from the Chinese government, all of them rush to go, oh no, that can't be true, right? And all of a sudden we have newspapers saying that it's not true. You know what? We don't know what's true. We don't know what's true. But what we do know is that we can't have people who know nothing about business, who have never created a job, who have never risked everything, like these business owners have to provide a service for people who spend their days thinking about how to keep their customers safe and healthy and returning. We can't allow these people to tell us what is important and what is not important and how things should be done. And I'm sorry to go off on a tear there, Rob, but tell me, if you could have the governor in front of you right now, what would you say to him? What would you tell him you think he should do for small businesses? And you're allowed to curse, but not bad words.
Oh, you have no idea what I would want to say right now. I would actually, you know what? I would love to sit down and talk to them, and let's brainstorm together. Let's brainstorm together. That way we can make everything safe and open up again with the restaurants. Like, I can't see how he can make these decisions without asking restaurant people's opinions. So to me, it would be a great idea for us to sit down and talk and say, okay, listen, this is how we could open up safe. This is how we should gradually open up and so forth. Without them asking our opinion, I just feel like, we have no control of what they're going to do. I mean, who knows, even if we're going to even open up September 30th, maybe they might postpone it like they did with the schools. Like, you just don't know.
So Kim Salva says, do they know how much money we are all losing, including New York City? Where do they think the money comes from? Zero leadership. And it's a good point, Rob, right? I mean, the restaurant industry is part of the tourism industry. It's a supporter. We talked already about that. It's a part of people's everyday lives, because I know that I eat out at least once a week, and we order in at least once a week. So that's two times a week that we're eating out, and I'm sure that other people eat out as much. But so why would anybody come to New York City? Let's just say a tourist comes to New York City. At 25% capacity, they couldn't even get in, really, right? I mean, because that would just take care of the people in the neighborhood.
Why even bother? Let me ask you a question. Why even bother tourists even coming to New York, period? Why? What's the point? We got crime all over the place. Restaurants are closed. We're the only city around that was still closed on all this bullshit stuff between restaurants and this and that. We're like, it's disgusting. It really is. It's sad. It's very, very sad. So why would a tourist even want to come and even visit New York?
And Rob, don't you agree that the only people that can actually survive the 25% is probably going to be some of those chain stores like Applebee's and McDonald's and people and places like that.
Well said.
I mean, a regular guy, even if you were a guy that owns 5 or 6 restaurants, to be able to sustain all 5 or 6, you're never going to have that kind of capital sitting behind, because in the restaurant industry, you're always reinvesting into the business. You're always, and as busy as you get, you expand, you hire more people, and the people you hire, these are people that can come out of school, or immigrants, right? That maybe don't have the education to have a professional job, and so the first step for them is in the restaurant industry. Am I wrong with that?
Nope, you're absolutely 100% right.
So in essence, de Blasio and Cuomo are helping the big chain people, the rich corporations, and they're destroying the small business guys and also the minimum wage workers.
Right. It almost seems like the strong survives. I personally do not support any chain restaurants. I'd rather go to mom and pop places, take my money and spend my money there. I'm the type of guy that goes out 6-7 days a week, and I like to support everybody. I'm out to dinner 7 days a week. I like to spread it all out. But as far as these chain restaurants, they're the only ones that are really basically going to survive. But I'd rather support the mom and pop places 100%.
Do you remember that movie Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone?
And Wesley Snipes, yes.
I do remember Taco Bell. Was the only restaurant?
Yeah. Absolutely, 100%.
It feels like that's what we got going on here. All right, so let's talk about the lawsuit for a minute, and also let's give a plug to your lawyer, Ron Castorina.
Ron Castorina, fantastic lawyer.
Yeah, he really he's helping out some of the other restaurants, but our guardian angel lawyers, all right, in addition to Ron Castorina, are Lou Gellermino and Mark Fonte, because Lou Gellermino and Mark Fonte, worked with the restaurants, and were able to create iRoar, and the website is iRoar and then ROARNYC.com. And if you are a restaurant owner and you're watching the show, please go and sign up. They are the ones, and I know, Rob, you're part of the lawsuit. They have sued the mayor and the governor to force the immediate opening of restaurants at 50% capacity.
Right.
Rob, where are we with that? Have we heard anything new about that?
Have not.
I have not, but we still have a chance at getting you open at 50% capacity for September 30th if Gellermino and Mark Fonte are able to,
I hope
convince them.
so. I hope so, Leticia. Not to cut you off, but let me just explain something to you. In the restaurant business, you can't survive with 25%. You cannot survive with 50%, and 75% just basically makes you break out even.
Yeah,
And that's the truth.
right.
So 25%, 50% is not going to work for you. Most restaurants, okay, I would probably say 99% of them, we need to be open up at 100% capacity just to put a couple extra dollars in our pocket. Otherwise, it's going to be a long ride. And
Well,
and also another thing too is, I think Staten Island's going to survive this. Most of the restaurants in Staten Island, because we don't really rely on tourists like we do in New York City. So I think most Staten Island restaurants are going to be able to weather the storm. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed on that. The city's a totally different story. I think a lot of them are in major trouble. But Staten Island, I think they're going to survive.
So yeah, and that's a good point that you bring up, Rob. Manhattan restaurants, we may see tons of them go out. But oh, I'm sorry, my dog in the background. Something's going on there, but we're almost our hour's almost up anyway. But Rob, that the one thing that I want to ask you, so are you telling me that September 30th comes and you guys can't open up at 100%? That you think that everybody's going to just close down, or do you think that we're going to have a rebellion on our hands?
I don't know. You know what? I think listen, there's going to be, if I say 100 restaurants, especially, I don't know. I think like a lot of places that are 25% that have been closed already, I don't think they're going to open up. I think they're better off just staying because they're still going to have the same gas. They're still going to have the same electric bill, and they're still going to have to pay the same mortgage. So they might wait. Most restaurants might wait till they get 50% at least.
Yeah.
50%. And God, like I told you, 50% might not be until December. And then after that, you're not seeing anything more than 50% until like maybe February or March, because they're going to wait until all the holidays are over with. So I think we're still in for a long run. I think we're still going to be, I still think we're going to have to weather the storm for a little while. I think it might get a little worse.
And let's talk about something else. A restaurant that serves liquor depends heavily on the bar business.
Correct.
To be able to, because just quickly, people, and those of you who don't know, I was a restaurateur. It was my first business at 21 years old. But because the food costs, and food is perishable, the food costs are so high, the property taxes, mortgages, all that so high, that your bar business, the drinks are what you have your markup on, and they're what carries the rest of the business. And when a restaurant opens, for it to survive, it has a business plan, and it knows it needs so many asses and seats, turning over each night or each week in order for it to make its nut, and then to have a little bit of profit for the owners. When they cut out the bar business and put people at tables to drink, and with forcing them to order maybe one appetizer to be shared, for 4 people, it destroys that business plan. Isn't it true, Rob?
Correct, 100%.
Okay, so you recognize that the restaurant industry, the governor, they have no freaking idea what they're doing here. They have no idea on how to keep the industry alive. And the unfortunate situation is that if our restaurant industries go out, if our small businesses go out, these men and women could pull up stakes tomorrow and say, you know what, I'm going to sell it. I'm gone. I'm out of here. And I can open up a restaurant in South Carolina or Florida or another place that understands the business and is going to be a partnership. So, Rob, what last words we have about a minute and a half left. What last words do you have for our guests? What can we do to help you guys out?
The best thing I can say to help us out is just basically just try to get out there and try to support the mom and pop places. Go out and try to grab a bite to eat and support us that way. Forget about these chains. Let's take care of the mom and pop places. I think that would be huge. I'd love to see people come out and grab a bite to eat, all kinds of ages. So that's basically forget the chains. Come and take care of the mom and pop places and help us all out.
All right, so Rob, tell everybody what your hours of operation are, and do you do takeout, delivery? What do you do?
So I do takeout and delivery. The hours of operations are 12 o'clock p.m. and we close at 11 o'clock p.m. Once September 30th comes, then we're allowed to keep the inside open until 12 o'clock. So, but we're open up 7 days a week, and we're also open up for Thanksgiving as well. This is the first time in 40 years that we're actually open up for Thanksgiving.
Excellent. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's Rob Parascandola from Marina Cafe. His partner is Ro Saladino. I can tell you that I love the Marina Cafe. It was my usual Friday night spot with some friends, and you should all go out and you should see Rob and keep, and keep it going. You got to go to your local restaurants. We've got to do everything we can to keep them open. And Rob, thank you for understanding that. For us customers, another surcharge would be hard for us to handle. So thank you for speaking up, and I would love to have you on again when we open up to talk about how that's going.
Absolutely, Leticia. It's always a pleasure dealing with you, and I can't thank you enough for helping me out with the liquor license and everything else throughout the years. You're a great person and a true friend. Thank you so much, and hopefully I see you soon too. Thank you again for the invite.
Thank you, Rob. All right, everybody, that ends our show. I will see you on Monday, and thanks to Rob and Ro and the Marina Cafe, and I'll see you Monday, 2 o'clock.